A deaf black boy sent a distress signal to an Arab veteran, and what he did was something no one expected. The boy's hands trembled as he formed the sign for the third time. Hand open, fingers spread, thumb bent into the palm. The universal gesture for help that he had learned at school for the deaf. But no one was paying attention. No one except the dark-eyed man pushing a shopping cart 3 aisles away. Ibrahim al-Hashimi had just picked up a box of cereal when he saw the boy, no more than 10 years old, being dragged by 2 older teenagers toward the back exit of the supermarket. The boy wore hearing aids in both ears, and his lips moved silently, trying to communicate something that the others clearly ignored. One of the teenagers, wearing a thick gold chain and a backwards baseball cap, pulled the boy's arm hard. The little boy stumbled, hitting his knee against a shelf of canned goods. Ibrahim dropped the cereal in the cart and approached from the parallel aisle, keeping himself partially hidden behind a stack of promotional boxes. He watched more closely. The boy made the sign again, now with tears streaming down his face. His eyes searched desperately for someone, anyone who would understand. When his gaze met Ibrahim's, he made the gesture once more, this time discreetly pointing to the 2 teenagers. Ibrahim knew that sign. He had seen it in military training in Iraq, where he had served as an interpreter for the U.S. Army for 8 years before obtaining his visa. He also knew it because his niece, still in Baghdad, was deaf. She had taught him basic sign language during their weekly video calls. He moved quickly through the liquor aisle, cutting across to intercept them before they reached the exit. His 43 years of life had taught him to recognize danger even when disguised as ordinary teenagers. As he approached, he heard fragments of their conversation. "Your brother will pay," one of the boys chuckled softly. "500, or we'll sell him to the people downtown." Ibrahim's stomach churned. This wasn't simple bullying. It was kidnapping. "Excuse me," Ibrahim said calmly, blocking their path in the cleaning supplies aisle. "I think this boy dropped something." The teenagers stopped. The one in the cap frowned. "He didn't drop anything. We're leaving." "Oh." Ibrahim crossed his arms, his body blocking the width of the aisle. "Because it looks to me like he doesn't want to go with you." The boy took advantage of the distraction and made quick hand signals. "Help. Name Elijah. Not family. They picked me up at school. They want money." Ibrahim understood only half of it, but it was enough. He kept his eyes fixed on the teenagers as he pulled his cell phone from his pocket, his fingers moving quickly to dial 911. "Hey, chill out, man," said the second boy, who was thinner and had a tattoo on his neck. "He's our cousin. We're just taking him home." "A deaf cousin you can't understand?" Ibrahim asked. "Because he just told me in sign language that you kidnapped him." Their expressions instantly changed from irritation to panic. The one with the cap grabbed his backpack. "Get out of the way, man. Don't get involved." Ibrahim didn't move. "I already called the police. The store security has also been notified." He was bluffing about security, but the call was real. The operator's voice was already echoing on the speakerphone, asking about the nature of the emergency. The 2 teenagers looked at each other. The tattooed one pushed his partner. "Leave the kid alone. Let's go." They let go of Elijah and tried to run down the opposite aisle, but Ibrahim had already seen the market manager blocking that exit, walkie-talkie in hand. In less than 3 minutes, sirens were already blaring in the parking lot. Elijah, still shaking, grabbed Ibrahim's shirt collar tightly, as if afraid that the veteran would also disappear. Ibrahim knelt down to the boy's height and made a simple sign that his niece had taught him, "You're safe now." Elijah's eyes filled with tears, but this time with relief. What Ibrahim didn't know was that this moment in the aisle of an ordinary supermarket would not only change Elijah's life, but also reveal a truth about his own past that he had spent years trying to forget. If you believe that sometimes the most important signs are those made in silence, subscribe to the channel. Because what follows will show that heroism doesn't need words, just courage. The police arrived in less than 5 minutes. 2 officers handcuffed the teenagers while a third knelt down to talk to Elijah, but the boy just pointed at Ibrahim, refusing to let go of his shirt. "He's deaf," Ibrahim explained to the officer. "He needs a sign language interpreter." "And you understand it?" the officer asked, skepticism in his voice. "The basics. My niece is deaf. I can help until you get a professional." For the next 20 minutes, Ibrahim translated what he could as Elijah frantically signed. The teenagers had approached him outside his special school 3 hours earlier, saying his older brother had sent them to pick him up. Elijah was suspicious, but they pushed him into a car before he could call for help. "What's your brother's name?" Ibrahim asked in sign language. Elijah spelled it out with his fingers, Jamal. Something in the boy's expression as he spelled out the name made Ibrahim hesitate. There was pride there, but also fear. The kind of fear that came from loving someone who lived dangerously. "Do you have his number?" Ibrahim asked. Elijah shook his head, then signed that Jamal changed phones every week. "Dangerous work," he gestured. The policeman frowned. "Dangerous how?" Before Ibrahim could ask, the supermarket door flew open. A tall man, around 25 years old, came in like a tornado. His eyes scanned the room until they found Elijah. "Eli!" he shouted, running toward the boy. Elijah lit up, letting go of Ibrahim and running into his brother's arms. Jamal caught him in midair, checking him over for bruises, his fingers flying in fluent sign language. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I'm going to kill those." "Sir," the police officer interrupted. "Are you his brother?" Jamal turned, still holding Elijah. "I am. Jamal Carter." "Who took my brother?" "It was him," the police officer pointed at Ibrahim. "He prevented the kidnapping." Jamal studied Ibrahim for a long moment. His eyes, so much like Elijah's, carried the weight of someone who had seen too much, too soon. Finally, he reached out his hand. "Thank you. Really. I owe you his life." Ibrahim shook his hand. "I did what anyone should do." "But no one did," Jamal said, his voice rough. "Only you." As the police finished their report, Ibrahim noticed something. The tattoo on Jamal's forearm, partially covered by his sleeve, showed 3 stars and a symbol he recognized from his days interpreting for the army. It was a gang marking. Not just any gang, but specifically the same faction that controlled drug trafficking in the region where he lived. The veteran felt his stomach sink. Those teenagers hadn't chosen Elijah at random. They knew exactly who his brother was. "Mr. Carter," one of the officers called out. "We need to talk about your brother's safety. This is the second incident this month." "Second?" Ibrahim asked before he could stop himself. Jamal looked away. "They tried to get him at the school exit last week too. I managed to get there in time." "And what do you think is the reason for that?" the police officer pressed. Jamal didn't answer. He just held Elijah tighter against his chest. After the police released everyone, Jamal approached Ibrahim in the parking lot. Elijah was in the back seat of an old Honda Civic, fiddling with his phone. "I know you saw it," Jamal said quietly, touching the tattoo. "I know you know." "It's none of my business," Ibrahim replied, even though every military instinct screamed that there was more to this story. "It is," Jamal insisted. "Because they'll try again. And next time, I might not be there." He paused. "But you were there today." Ibrahim was about to respond when Elijah got out of the car and began signaling something to his brother. Jamal translated aloud, almost reluctantly. "He wants to know if you can have dinner with us. As a thank you." "It's not necessary." "Please," Jamal cut in. "He hasn't trusted anyone since our mother died. But he trusts you." Ibrahim looked at Elijah, who held his hands clasped together in a universal gesture of supplication. How could he refuse? An hour later, Ibrahim was sitting in a small cramped kitchen in a second-floor apartment. Jamal cooked pasta while Elijah showed Ibrahim his drawings, each depicting superheroes saving people. "You draw very well," Ibrahim signed awkwardly. Elijah smiled for the first time, then made rapid signs. Jamal translated, "He wants to draw you as a superhero." "I'm no hero," Ibrahim said. "I just did the right thing." "To him you are," Jamal replied. Then more quietly, "To me too." That's when Ibrahim noticed. Through the kitchen window, a black car was parked on the street, engine running. 2 men inside, watching the building. Jamal followed his gaze and his expression hardened. "They're always there," he muttered. "Watching me. Making sure I work." "Do you work for them?" "I have no choice. My mother had medical bills. They paid everything. Now I pay them back." "How much do you owe?" Jamal laughed humorlessly. "They say it's 20,000. But every week the number goes up. Interest, fees, Protection for Elijah. I'll never get out of it. Ibrahim felt something shift inside him. He had spent 8 years in Iraq watching families destroyed by powerful men who exploited the vulnerable. He swore that when he got to America, he would never turn his back on anyone in need again. What if there was a way? He asked quietly. Jamal stared at him. What kind of way? The kind that requires courage and trust. Ibrahim spent the next 3 days doing something he hadn't done since leaving the army, planning an operation. But this time, it wasn't against insurgents in the Iraqi desert. It was against predators in expensive suits who enslaved vulnerable young people through impossible debts. On Wednesday night, he was back at Jamal's apartment with a laptop, a folder of documents, and a plan that sounded too absurd to work. "You want me to wear a wire?" Jamal asked incredulously. "Not only that," Ibrahim explained. "You go to a meeting with them tomorrow. You'll say you found a new customer, someone wanting to buy in bulk. An Arab businessman with clean money. They'll never believe you." "Yes, they will. Because that businessman is me." Jamal shook his head. "You don't understand. These guys are dangerous. They have connections with the police, judges, everyone." "I know," Ibrahim said calmly. "That's why I brought this." He opened his laptop and showed him the screen. It was a complete profile: Ibrahim al-Hashimi, supposed owner of a Middle Eastern restaurant chain, looking to expand into new markets. Professional photos, fake website, even fabricated references. "How did you get this in 3 days?" "I have friends," Ibrahim said simply. "Ex-military guys who now work in intelligence. They owe me favors." What Jamal didn't know was that Ibrahim had lied. They weren't military friends. It was something much more personal. But that secret would have to wait. On Friday at 7 in the evening, Jamal entered an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. Ibrahim was 20 meters behind him, wearing an expensive suit and a traditional white keffiyeh, a voice recorder in his jacket's inside pocket, and a tiny camera in his lapel. Inside the warehouse, 3 men were waiting. The leader, a man in his 50s with a scar on his face, studied Ibrahim suspiciously. "So you're the Arab with money?" Ibrahim nodded, keeping a neutral expression. "My name is Ibrahim. I came from the Emirates 10 years ago. I built an honest business, but now I want to diversify my investments." "Diversify," the scarred man repeated, smiling. "I like that word. How much are you willing to invest?" "It depends on the return," Ibrahim replied. "Your employee here," he pointed to Jamal, "said you have a profitable operation." "We do." The scarred man leaned forward. "High-risk loans, guaranteed collection. We never lose money." "How do you guarantee it?" "We have methods," the man said vaguely. "Families, children, siblings. Everyone has someone they love." Ibrahim felt anger burning in his veins, but he kept his voice calm. "I see. And how much does Mr. Carter here currently owe?" The scar consulted a worn notebook. 23,500. Plus 2% weekly interest. "Interesting," Ibrahim said. "Because I have here," he pulled documents from his briefcase, the original receipts. His mother owed only 8,000 in medical bills. "You paid that off 18 months ago." "So what?" The man grunted. "She signed a contract." "A contract with 400% interest per year," Ibrahim continued. "Illegal in the state of California. Plus a forced protection fee. Also illegal. And threats against a minor, his 10-year-old deaf brother." The scarred man's expression hardened. "You're not an investor. Who the hell are you?" Ibrahim smiled coldly. "I'm someone who spent 8 years in Iraq watching men like you exploit the weak. Someone who swore never to remain silent again." He clapped his hands once. The warehouse doors exploded. Federal agents stormed in from all sides, guns drawn, bulletproof vests glinting in the lights. "FBI. Hands on your heads." The scar tried to run, but was taken down in seconds. As they handcuffed the 3 men, an agent approached Ibrahim. "Good work, Mr. al-Hashimi." The recording was perfect. Jamal, still in shock, looked at Ibrahim. You work for the FBI?" "Not exactly," Ibrahim admitted. "But my niece does. Or rather, she did. She's not in Baghdad. She's here in California. Special Agent Nadia al-Hashimi." A woman in her 30s approached, gesturing fluently to Jamal. Your brother will be fine now. All debts have been cancelled. And you will enter the witness protection program if you want. Jamal fell to his knees, sobbing. Elijah, who had been kept safe at another location with a social worker, was brought back. The boy ran to his brother, then to Ibrahim, hugging them both. Ibrahim knelt down to his height. You are brave, he signed. You saved yourself by asking for help. Elijah signed back. You taught me that signs are important. But it was Agent Nadia who revealed the final truth. Mr. Al-Hashimi, she said, we need to talk about why you really did this. Ibrahim closed his eyes. He knew this moment would come. 15 years ago, before I came to America, I had a son in Iraq. Deaf, like Elijah. Powerful men kidnapped him to force me to work for them. I couldn't save him in time. Jamal and Nadia were silent. When I saw Elijah make that sign in the supermarket, Ibrahim continued, his voice breaking, I saw my son. I saw the chance I didn't have. I wasn't going to waste it again. Elijah didn't understand the words, but he understood the pain. He touched Ibrahim's face gently, then made a simple sign, family. Ibrahim hugged the boy, tears finally falling. A year later, Ibrahim sat in the front row of a school auditorium, watching Elijah on stage. The boy, now 11, was giving a presentation to the entire school about the international sign for help. His hands moved confidently as an interpreter translated aloud for the audience. This sign saved my life, Elijah signed. And it can save yours too. Next to Ibrahim, Jamal watched with pride swelling in his chest. In the past year, he had finished high school through a night program and started a technical course in computer programming. The debt that had imprisoned him for years had been officially cancelled by the federal court. The three men in the warehouse were serving sentences ranging from 15 to 25 years for extortion, threats, and a dozen other crimes uncovered during the investigation. 17 other families had been freed from the same scheme. After the presentation, children surrounded Elijah, asking questions in sign language and aloud. A 6-year-old girl tugged at his sleeve. How were you so brave? She asked through the interpreter. Elijah thought for a moment, then signed, I wasn't brave. I was afraid. But I remembered that someone might be watching. Someone always is. Ibrahim felt his throat tighten. Those words sounded exactly like something his son would have said, if he had had the chance. Outside in the parking lot, Agent Nadia waited leaning against her car. She smiled when she saw the uncle, discreetly adjusting her hearing aid. Since moving from Baghdad to California 6 years ago, her deafness had never prevented her from serving the FBI. She always said it had taught her to pay attention to signs that others ignored. You did a good thing, she said in Arabic. My father would be proud. Your father, Ibrahim replied softly, should be proud of you. You built the case. But you were the one who had the courage to act, Nadia insisted. Even though you knew it would bring back painful memories. Ibrahim glanced back, where Elijah was laughing with a group of friends, Jamal watching closely. Some memories need to come back, he said. So we can finally heal them. 3 weeks later, Ibrahim opened a small community center in the same neighborhood where Jamal and Elijah lived. The name above the door was written in English and Arabic, Khalil Hope Center, named after the son he had lost more than 15 years ago, when he still lived in Iraq, before his 8 years serving as a military interpreter, before everything that had brought him to this moment. The space offered free sign language classes, support for families of deaf children, and most importantly, training on safety signs and how to ask for help. Elijah was the first student to volunteer as a teaching assistant, showing younger children the sign that had saved his life. On a rainy December afternoon, as Ibrahim was arranging chairs for the next class, Jamal appeared at the door with an envelope in his hands. I did it, he said, his voice trembling. Full scholarship to technical college. Ibrahim dropped the chairs and hugged the young man who, in just over a year, had become like a son to him. His brother would be proud. He already is, Jamal replied. And you? Are you proud of yourself? For everything you've done? Ibrahim thought about the question. For so long, he had carried guilt for not saving Khalil. Guilt for leaving Iraq, for starting a new life while his son remained only a memory. But now, seeing Elijah teach other children to ask for help, seeing Jamal build a real future, seeing dozens of families freed from predatory debt, he finally felt something different. Peace. Not pride, he said honestly. but perhaps forgiveness. For myself. Jamal nodded, understanding without needing further words. That night, during sign language class, a mother raised her hand. My son is 4 years old and deaf. I'm afraid he won't be able to communicate if he's in danger. Ibrahim smiled gently. Then I will teach him and you, not just sign language, but something more important. I will teach that silence does not mean weakness, and that asking for help is the bravest act there is. Elijah, watching from the corner of the room, made a sign that needed no translation. He pointed to Ibrahim, then to his own heart, then joined his hands together. Thank you. Family. Love. Ibrahim returned the signs, his eyes shining. Years later, when reporters asked Elijah about that day at the supermarket, about the sign that changed everything, he always answered the same way: the sign didn't just save my life. It saved his too. Because sometimes, when you save someone else, you're really saving yourself. And every time Ibrahim told this story, he ended with the same message: a sign may seem small. Just a hand, a few fingers, a silent gesture. But in the right hands, at the right moment, it can mean the difference between despair and hope, between loss and redemption. If this story touched you, if you believe that everyone deserves to be seen, heard, and saved, subscribe to the channel and share it. Because maybe, just maybe, someone watching now will learn the sign that will one day save a life. And that life could be yours.